It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Elmo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. Elmo's World Podcast, I am Elmo, and I have my friends Abu Muhammad Alee and Ibn Ali. He's an awesome anonymous person. I just interviewed him before. And now we have my friend Ali here. Ali, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah mabah. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed all praise and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As such, we ask Allah azza wa jal. His help in his forgiveness, and we ask him to send his peace and blessing on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his entire family, his noble companion, and those who follow him in his footsteps to the day of judgment. So my name is Abu Muhammad Ali Al-Ansari, but my real name is Ali, but I go by the nickname of Abu Muhammad Ali Al-Ansari because my first son's name, Muhammad. So Abu Muhammad means the father of Muhammad. That's what most people know me by. I'm originally from West Africa, Ivory Coast, to be precise, but I'm currently living in the United States of America, Texas, to be precise. And I'd like to thank you, Elmo, for inviting me to your podcast to discuss some of the Islamic belief system. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So, Brother Ali, I want to ask you one question first.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Allah to you?
Allah.
And what is his role in your life? In your life?
Okay, Allah is the creator, the sustainer, the maintainer, the one who provides, the one who gives life, the one who causes death, the bestower of all the blessing that the creation has. So in essence, he's the one who created me, who feeds me, who provides for me, who gave me everything that I have and more that I could never even imagined. And he's the one that I worship alone, that I devote myself to, devote my life toward to. I try to please, I try to live my life according to his teaching as the best I can. And whenever I slack up, then I turn back to him and seek his forgiveness, because he's the law of merciful. He's a merciful God. He's a compassionate creator. He's so much for me. Without Allah, I wouldn't be anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah.
And my question would be is that I want to take us back a notch and say, why do you believe in Allah? Or what are your, basically, why do you believe that there's a God out there who loves us, or here, who loves you, or and has a mercy and has and will judge us at Judgment Day?
Okay, so primary reason is from the natural disposition of me, who I am. It's something that I cannot get rid of. It's something that I'm born with, that to naturally believe in the Creator. It's part of my natural dispositions as a human beings. So that's the primary reason. The second reason is look at the creations, reflecting on the creations, then I can rationalize and deduce that there must be a creator beyond these vast creations who has countless of creations in it, animal kingdom, plant, celestial bodies, anything that you can think of. All of this could not come by their own. It was a byproduct of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bringing it to existence. And the third thing is it's a personal relationship that I have established with my creator through the final revelation that he sent down to us to follow, and building myself up, following that teaching, establish this personal relationship that I have with my creator. When I call upon him, I can see that he answers my supplications. I can see that he has impact in my life, and things that I've been through, things that I see in life that there's no way possible I could get out of those situations, realizing, reaching out to God, the creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he gave me out of those situations, reaffirmed that there must be a creator. As far from life after death, this also a natural belief that I have. Even though when I was born in a Muslim family, I didn't have much knowledge about Islam, but there was three things that I always believe. I always believe in the creator. I always believe in the day of judgment. I always believe in the prophethoods. This is something that God always sent to human beings to guide us. If he give us our eyes and has a purpose, our eyes are purpose. He create our hands are purpose, our feet has a purpose, our whole body has a purpose. So therefore he must have created us for purpose. And the way that we will know about this purpose is that he sent us messengers to let us know this is the purpose of creating you. And if you follow those, those teaching or fulfill those obligations of the purpose of your creations, this is where you're going to go. If you fail the mission, this is where you're going to go. And the choice is up to you now. Which path do you plan to take? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And I agree with you because I myself am a theist.
Mm-hmm.
And when you use the for example a natural disposition of and you cannot leave a state of or whether or not you believe in God, would you say that this is something exclusive to you to you being Ali, or that it's something that every human being has this innate disposition of believing in God, and they themselves, even atheists, cannot deny God's existence?
Yes. I think this is all across the board. If you look at the history of humanity, most civilization that you can study, you will realize that majority of them believe in the creator, some form of supreme power that everybody believes. They might have a demigods here and there, but there's an ultimate supreme creator that all of them believe in. And this can unfold as well in a person's life. If a person fell into crisis, or imagine in the Quran, for instance, Allah mentions when the people are sailing on the ship and there's a storm coming, and they have no one to save them. At that moment, their natural disposition come. They realize the only one that can save them is the creator. There's a statement saying that there's no atheist in a sinking boat. So at that moment, people will turn back to God and ask God to help them, to assist them, to get them out of these situations. So in a situation, different situations that can arise can demonstrate to people that there is definitely a creator. No matter how much, a person tries to deny. Does that answer the question?
Okay, but let's say I'm an atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I do not have an innate disposition of God, and of belief in God, and that if someone tells me that I'm denying a God in my heart, and that I do believe in Him, but that in a sense I'm just constantly denying it, then I would say that person is calling me a liar, because I have an absence of belief in God, and that it would be somewhat dishonest for you to claim what I believe or what's happening in my own understanding of my
I
consciousness.
would say
So
not.
how would you respond to
I
that?
would not. I would say it's not necessary that you're lying. It could be that your natural disposition is clouded, that you don't see the reality for what it is. So therefore, you're thinking that, okay, if someone tell you you're incorrect in this perspective, you lying. No, not necessarily. It could be that you're ignorant of the fact. It could be that you're just neglectful, or it could be that you just want to suppress that feeling. Because atheists do. There is a study that shows when they ask the atheists about person dying in the hereafter, the subconscious awareness made them realize, yeah, the confidence level in the existence of creator rise up. So there is a study to support that even atheists subconsciously they do believe in the creator. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay,
can share
but
that
in a
as
way
well
you
too.
mhm.
Good.
But you in a way you framed this that it's unfalsifiable because for example, if I claim to be to not to have an absence of belief in God, it's not my innate disposition, but you're saying that in a meta way that outside of that is my disbelief is just an illusion. So
Not
and
necessarily
but another thing that
not necessarily like I mentioned, it could just be just want to ignore it. Some people don't care whether God exists or not, it's irrelevant to them. Some people they're just ignorant of the fact that, God exists. That's just a reality.
Okay, so if it's a sort of ignorance, would you call that as essential or a part of the essence of being and the part of the innate disposition of belief in God that which you claim people?
Repeat the question. I didn't understand it. Repeat it.
Okay, so as you said that I might have just or most people just have an ignorance of whether or not God exists. So do you think that ignorance is part of also having an innate disposition of belief in God?
No. So when I say ignorant, I mean like willful ignorance. So for instance, a person or an awareness. For instance, a person can have a sickness within himself, but he can be unaware of it. So the fact that you're unaware of doesn't mean that the sickness doesn't exist. It just means that you're unaware that you have a sickness. So that's basically the explanations. Does that make
Mm-hmm,
sense though?
mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And but my answer, my question would be is that for example, if you frame it that way, that or example, if you talk to someone, let's say you're talking to an agnostic and say, "Oh, hey brother, you have an innate disposition, but in a way you're sort of ignoring God, or you're
Mm-hmm.
suppressing it, or you
Mm-hmm.
just don't care."
Mm-hmm.
So to me, if you told that, look, bro, that's not what's happening, and you might say it's like a Dunning-Kruger effect, and you're putting it in a way that I have not, it's unfalsifiable for me also. And then I but so it's that kind of rationality doesn't really can't really convince anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But other than, let's say, the innate disposition, what else do you, or what other reasons do you believe
So let's go back to the
that God
let's
exists?
go back to innate disposition. So for a single person, I would ask them, okay, when you were born in a specific religion, most likely, right? And you were born believing the creator. To certain level, no one is born to believe that there's no creator, right? Right? Okay. So at some specific point in your life, you decided, okay, I don't believe in the creator. Okay, so I'm gonna ask what lead to that events in life that led you to say that, okay, I don't believe in the creator. So most of the time when you dig and you ask the question, you will come to find the underlying reason why the specific person think this specific way. It could be that there's a tragedy in his life that he couldn't explain. He's been brought up to believe that the creator answered prayers and his grandmother passed away. Now he's asking why did his grandmother pass away? Or because of this reason? No, I'm gonna take a revenge. I don't want to believe in the creator anymore. Since you want to do this to my loved one, and they can deny it like that. It's not because so there's many factors that we you have to take in consideration now when a person that said that they like believing in the creator, you have to know what is the reasons. It could be a person say, okay, I don't see no evidence, or I'm not convinced by the evidence, or XYZ. So you have to ask those specific one to get to the bottom line. What is the main reason they disbelieve in the creator? But generally speaking, most people, when they are born in the society, and the society, majority of people believe in the creator, even and they're born in a family that believe in the creator, they'll automatically associate themselves with that belief system until something arise in their life that turn them away from that lifestyle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you mentioned.
Okay, but
Go ahead.
yeah, and but I would like to ask Ibn Ali what his opinion on this would be, and whether or not he also believes that his faith in God is grounded on his innate disposition.
Hey, so I think it's I do believe in this innate disposition. I mean, I would identify it as intuition, but I think it's more than just the belief in God. So there's and I wouldn't even call it as a belief. I'd call it like a type of knowledge. Really. So for example, I also intuit that like causality is real. It's like an actual thing. Or the concept of causal relations are real. You know, if you were to ask somebody, if you were to ask like an atheist, for example, how do you, like why do you believe in causality, or rather, like, prove causality is a real thing, the concept, or rather, like, prove that it's true. You won't be able to. It's something that like you require to attain knowledge to begin with. You know what I mean? It's something that like you have to take as a foundation. If you don't, then you can't have knowledge. Now, I would personally say, I know causality is a real thing just because I know it. That's it. Like that's how intuition works. I don't have to justify it further. I just know it to be true because it's true. You see what I mean? Like that's how I imagine intuition works. You know, if you ask me why, I'd be like, hey, look, I don't know why. I just know that it's a real thing. And I would account, as a theist, I'd account like for my intuition. I'd explain that through God. So, for example, if you were asking me, well, look, like you know that causality is real. Like how, like why would you trust that? You know, like why would you have any reason to trust it? As a theist, I'd be like, look, I trust it because it's God who put this in there. You know, and God, I have faith that God is truthful. You see what I mean? Now, as an atheist, I don't think would have the same luxury of being able to say that. So with the case of their knowledge of that like causality is a real thing, like they may say, hey, look, like I don't know what's real. It's just a belief that I have. I would say that even that is not sufficient enough, because if it's like if you cannot even ground it, then how are you going to make other claims through through causal relations, which I mean everybody does all the time. So that's one thing. Another problem they have is even if they say, look, like I believe in causality because that's just how we're built, right? If they say like through evolution, this is how we establish this like innate disposition of causality, right? If like even if they were to say that though, Elmo, they have another problem, and that is just because you evolved in order to see the world this way doesn't mean that it's true. Like, or rather, like why would you trust that? You have no reason to trust it, even if it's a product of evolution. You see what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not something like I think.
It's foundational.
Yeah, and like it has to be foundational, and it has to be like you have to have a good reason to actually believe, or rather, a good reason to trust it. Because it's one thing to say I believe it exists, and it's another thing to say I trust it. You know what I mean? So the Muslims would say, look, I trust God. You could say on faith, or you can say I trust God because like one of the like the names of Allah is Al-Haq, which is like the truth, the reality. So yeah, so that's just my opinion on intuitionism, how it relates to theism and atheism, and how one would justify one over the other. But I gave the example of causality because that's one that atheists and theists share. So, like in addition, a Muslim might say that like their belief in God is also through their intuition. So like they know God exists already, right? Like you would say that you know. I mean, like you may not, but I would say, look, I know God exists because I know it, and then I would go and try and rationalize this through a reason and like philosophical arguments or whatever. See what I mean? But like, if I didn't even have that knowledge to begin with that God exists, why would I even bother to make rational arguments? You know what I mean? I'd be like, well, I don't really care, but I care about it because I know it's true. You see what I'm saying? So this is just like I'm just explaining like how I personally work, or rather how I think it works when we're trying to investigate the creation or like whether or not God exists. It only makes sense that you would either you truly believe he exists or you truly don't. And that's why you're engaging in this discussion. Somebody who doesn't care, like you wouldn't expect them to engage in that discussion.
Yeah, and what interests me though is that Ali, this is an interview of what you believe, and if in this case, if your only claim to why you believe in God is sort of an intuitional, innate disposition, then in a way it would be hard for you to convince others to believe in this if they ground their own beliefs on a more foundational, as Ibn Ali said, and in a skeptical sense, a lot would also test the reliability of whether of my intuition of whether or not I there is an innate disposition that I have. So people have different standards for how they determine what the for maximal certainty for their beliefs. And I guess that in your case, what else or what other reasons are there that you believe in God?
So as I mentioned, I said the first was the innate belief that is something that I'm naturally born with. The second thing is looking at the creations, then deducing there must be a creator beyond these creations. So looking at the sun, the moon, the earth, the planets, the planetary system, the nebula, anything that you can look at, basically deducing from there that there must be a creator. From that perspective, then that's the second level of believing that there is a creator. Now, if you want me to elaborate on that one, I can share my thoughts, why the reason I believe that the universe or the cosmos is creator and there's a creator behind. So for me, rationally thinking about the creations, for instance, that we all will agree, unless it's someone who just someone who just doesn't believe that the real world exists outside of its own mind, right? So we all will believe that the real world exists outside our mind, right? So what is the explanation for the real world existing outside our mind? So the logical conclusion that we can come to, or the logical possibility that we can come to, is one, the universe was brought into existence by nothing, absolutely nothing, from nothing. That's one possibility some people can take. Then I've heard people spoke about that one as well. And another possibility is that people can come up with the explanation is that the universe created itself, brought itself into existence. The third thing is the universe was brought into existence by something else, something created. And the fourth possibility and the last possibility would be that the universe was brought into existence by a creator. So from logical eliminations, you can deduce nothing which is defined as assign on all things, potentiality, no causal relations, no power, no energy, cannot do anything. So nothing is basically a non-existence. Was the universe brought into non-existence? If something doesn't exist, how can it bring anything into existence? So we can rule out that possibility now. It cannot be the case that the universe was brought into existence by non-existence. The second possibility, the universe was create its own self. To create your own self is to bring yourself into existence, but you have to exist and not exist at the same time. So it's like what Hamza mentioned. He said it's like, imagine your mother giving birth to herself. So that's another absurdity that we can rule out, that no, the universe wasn't brought into existence, but brought existing by its own self. So the third possibility is that the universe was brought into existence by something created. Something created. So we ask, if it was brought into existence by something created, then who created that creation? Who brought that creation into existence? That was brought into existence by another thing created. And that created thing also was brought into existence by another creator. So if imagine a circle, right? And you have an A, B, C, D, E, right? The A bring B into existence. The B brought C into existence. The C brought D into existence. But before A can bring B into existence, D need to exist to bring A to existence. But before E could bring C into existence, then B have to exist. So if you go in a circle, you will see that for one creation to bring another creation to existence, he have to exist first. But the fact that we have a creation now, it exists, it shows that it's impossible for another creations to bring the creation of the universe into existence if you go at infinitum. Does that make sense? Are you following me? Okay. So for creation A to bring creation B into existence, the creation B need creation C to bring creation B into existence. For creation C to be brought into existence, E require creation D. If all of this go at infinitum, then we will never have any creation into existence. But the fact is, we do have a creation in existence, which is universe. So that means that the creator that brought the creation existence must be eternal, must be outside of the domain of being created, meaning like he must be eternal. So it therefore follows the last conclusion that we eliminated that it was brought into existence by nothing. We brought the possibility that it was created by itself. We eliminated the possibility that it was brought into existence by another creations, and the final conclusion that it was brought into existence by eternal creator. So that's another reasoning that I take into conclusion that, okay, there must be a creator. So now there are people who say that, well, the universe just exists. So what is the evidence for a universe just exists? To say that the universe exists eternally mean like you have infinite past of history. So that would mean that the history never began. So if history never began, present moment will not actualize. Does that make sense? If we never had these conversations, will we ever arrive at 26 minutes, 56 seconds? No, because the moment never started. So if the universe is eternally, it will mean that the past event never began to exist. At the present moment, we will never actualize. But the fact that the present moment actualize contradicts that the universe doesn't have a beginning. So we can conclude that the universe being eternal is ruler as well. So the only rational conclusion that I can come up with is that the universe must have a creator. That's one option. That's one reasoning. The another one is that the universe is a possible existence. Possible existence means that the universe could exist and could not exist. The fact that, like for instance, it's possible that you could exist, it's possible that you could not exist. So you have equal possibility of existing and equal possibility not existing. The fact that you exist there, it means that it must be someone else's will to bring you into existence, right? So the same thing applies to the universe. The universe has a possibility of existing and possibility of not existing. Since they're both equally possible, the universe exists means that there must be someone else who brought the universe to existence. Does that make sense? So there are characteristics that we can tell that show that the universe is possible. So possibility can take is a different definition. So one of them is the universe could be otherwise. For instance, let's look at the sun, the moon, the stars. It's possible it's raining today. It's possible it could not be raining, tomorrow. So that's a possibility. The fact that it rained here, that means that there must be a reason or there must be a cause or creator that brought the rain into effect, because it only exists on possibility. Like, so if we look at everything in the universe, we can conclude as well, if everything in the universe has possibility, its existence is based on possibility and equal possibility of not existing, the fact that it exists, there must be a reason or a power or will or creator that brought the universe into existence. So those are one of the two main reasons that I can reason my way to say that, yes, there must be a creator. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that in a sense the Kalam cosmological argument can be presented in different ways.
Yeah.
But in the response to that, and a lot of counter arguments would be that it takes also takes a lot of presuppositions in order to state the that the first that the universe actually works in a causal sense, you know. And even Hume already in his in how he philosophizes is that we only see correlations, but we never really know for certain whether something cause whether A causes B. And another thing is that the presupposition of that the universe must have a first cause, because
Okay.
it could be that we just like for example Matt Dillahunty would say that we just don't know whether or not there's a need for the universe to like have a cause, you know. So and this is something that I guess would have to lead you to a sort of coherentism. Let's say that, for example, if you act in a way in a certain in your life, and you believe and you know that things work and things have a causal
Relationship.
the universe works, yeah, exactly, relations. So you must then follow the logical conclusions to it, whether it be and even if it's limited by, for example, the empirical. To me, I would also follow it through the transcendental arguments, and I think Ibn Ali has something to say about that.
Yes, yes. Muhammad, is it okay if I answer?
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So first, let's talk about causality, because it's one of my favorite subjects. I would agree with the philosopher on causality, that it's not something you can prove, which is why I started talking. Like when I was talking about intuition, I mentioned it, but I mean, there is no argument in philosophy that like is without assumptions. You know, the best arguments are from assumptions that we can all agree to. So if you remember, Elmo, I think we spoke about this before, about I think like one of the best uses for like deductive syllogisms is to hold people accountable to their beliefs. So for example, if someone operates every day, they operate as if causality exists. They operate, they make claims that like would suggest that they really do believe that causality is real. So for example, David Hume, for example, let's say like you went up to him and you smacked him on the head. You know, he might attribute that like you caused that, you know, and you could be like, ha, no, I didn't. Like you can't prove that. You know what I mean? But he'd be like, no, like stop being stupid. You know, like you did that. But like, I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that yes, he's right that we cannot prove it, but like that's, I mean, like if he really does believe that it's a significant thing and he uses it every day, then all we're saying is, okay, man, so like given causality, then the Kalam cosmological argument is true. You see what I mean? So he won't, he could reject the presupposition of causality, but he can only like remain consistent on his rejection if he consistently applies this rejection with every day in his life. You see what I mean? And that's something that I would find problematic, because for somebody to reject causality every day in their life, like, I mean, that'd be crazy, you'd admit.
Impossible to live.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Yeah, like it would just be like complete sophistry at that point. Like even if you were to say, for example, well, no, I could reject it and just act like it's true just because it's convenient, like blah blah whatever. Like that's irrelevant because like he's not gonna operate that way when like something drastic happens, like someone stabs him or something. He's not gonna be like, well, no, it's not really true. Like when push comes to shove, he's going to appeal to causality. So that's one. So that's about causality. Then you mentioned about Matt Dillahunty saying that we have no good reason to believe that the universe couldn't exist. I think the reason that Abu Muhammad gave was completely sufficient, but it's not often understood as it should be. And what he's saying is that like you cannot mix the infinite and the finite together. That'd be a contradiction. If you were to mix the two in reality, it would be a contradiction. So Elmo, like we discuss this all the time. It is not a contradiction for an apple. For example, like let's say like you identify, if you're looking at something and you identify it in your mind, you identify that this is an apple, like this object is an apple, right? It is not a contradiction for the apple to then, like the red apple, let's say it was a red apple. It's not a contradiction to say that it was a red apple and then we painted it and then we painted it green and now it's a green apple. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't be a contradiction. It would, however, be a contradiction to say simultaneously at once, it is both a red and green apple. I mean, like completely red and completely black. We can use door. I think that'd be easier to understand because like you might be thinking of like a particular flavor of apple or whatever. But let's say a door, right? Like it could be a red door, or it could be a door that's so like 100% red, or a door that's 100% green. But can it be both 100% red and green? And you might say, yeah, because one person might perceive it as red and one might perceive it as green. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to the same observer, to you, Elmo, like when you're observing that door, you can only observe it as either 100% red or 100% green. And like for it to be both, that would be a contradiction in the purest in the purest form. Because if it is 100% red, that means by definition it cannot be 100% green. You see, and I'm saying like with the same observer anyway. And in the same way, if the world has an infinite past, then there's an infinite amount of things that had to have occurred in order for the present now to have occurred, in order for like the finite now to have occurred. But if there was truly an infinite past, it could never have occurred. How could it have occurred? You know, given time and like the motion of time. You know, it's mixing both the finite and the infinite together. And this is why you have the same contradiction as a contradiction of a door that is both 100% green and 100% red to the same observer. I rest my case.
Yeah. Just to elaborate a little bit though. My argument wasn't really basic on Kalam cosmological argument. I don't really like to use the term like cause as for Allah, because from what I learned is that cause is lifeless, materialless, willless. So I prefer to use the creator, which implies knowledge, will, and powers. So I don't really use Kalam cosmological argument. And I gave you the syllogism and break it down why each of the premises doesn't follow and lead to the final conclusions. Now, as I mentioned. So you have any more questions?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And in terms of, let's say, how about I guess that you have your arguments for God, and I guess that it's sort of also appealing to your reason. Then
hold on. One more thing. So to make that clear as well, just believing that Allah exists is not enough to be a Muslim. Because we do have Christians that believe in the Creator. We have Jewish people that believe in the Creator. They believe in certain attributes of Creator. So for us Muslims, that's a primary belief. So a belief regarded to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regard to three things. One is the belief in him as a creator, sustainer, maintainer, provider, the one who gives life, the one who caused death. That's the first thing, but that doesn't bring a person to the fold of Islam. The second belief regarding to the creator, that only he deserves to be worshipped. No one else deserves to be worshipped. Not a man, not a statue, not a human being, not an angel, not a celestial body, suns and moons. Any of the creation doesn't deserve to be worshipped. Only the creator deserves to be worshipped. And this is the purpose that he created us for. And this is the purpose that he sent the messengers to us to let us know this is the purpose for creating you, and this is how you fulfill it. And when you fulfill it, this is what you're going to get in return. So just to make that clear. And the last part is the belief about names and attributes of Allah, meaning that Allah has specific, unique names and attributes specific to him. We cannot attribute those attributes to the creator, to the creation, like a brother Hatim, Ibn Hali mentioned, like a missing infinite way, finites. So you cannot give God's attribute to human beings, to creations. You cannot give creations attribute to human being, which is similar to in case of Christianity, in case of Hinduism, where they say God became a man or God died or God incarnate. All of those are things that are outside of the domain of Islam. So you have to clarify all of those concepts first before you can really say, okay, I have an Islamic belief system. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I guess that before I ask you about the Quran, then I think that we would have to delve into its author first. And you would say that the author of the Quran is God Himself, and that He used the prophet to
convey the
reveal it
message
to the world. So yeah, convey. And so what particular reasons is that you believe in the Prophet Muhammad?
So Prophet Muhammad, regarding to Prophet Muhammad, there is 4 or 5 reasons. So one of them is knowing the character. So imagine if someone that you live with and you know him for 40 years, you know him to be a genuine person who never lie, never cheats, is a real well person, real trustworthy person. So his character speaks for himself. So that's one of the main reasons that his character speaks for himself, that he was known before even claimed prophethood, he was known to be Sadiq al-Amin, meaning that the truthful, trustworthy person. And when he got the revelations, he gathered his people together and he told them, if I were to tell you that there's an army beyond this mountain, will you guys believe me? They said, yes, we will believe you because we never doubted you, never suspect you of lying. So he told him that I'm a messenger of Allah and I was sent to convey his message to you guys, right? So the primary reason that his character, he has to have a noble character, meaning that he's truthful, trustworthy, he's righteous, he has a good conduct. So people that know him on the ground, they know that, okay, this is a person that is truthful, that I can rely on. And this makes sense as well in regard to God. When he's sending human beings to be his prophet, he has to be the best of people that people know, that people can testify that this person is truthful. So his statement give me high confidence that what he's saying is true. Does that make sense? Now, if God pick a liar and the liar come and say, hey, I was sent by God, people are going to have a reason to deny it. They're going to say, we know you to be a liar. We know you to be a fornicator. We know you to be doing all of this. Now you telling me that God inspired you. Come on, man, get out of here. We don't want to hear that. So his character speaks for himself. The second thing is message. What is it? So we pass, okay, he has a good character. So now, what did he get from the creator? Let's look at the message. So is the message calling us to kill people? Is the message calling us to steal? Is the message calling out to things that we know innately, naturally, that this is wrong, stealing, robbing, doing all of this kind of evil things, that will put a question mark on this message. Okay, your character is good, but your message right here is questionable because what your message is conveying to us. So we have to examine. The second thing is message. So what is message essentially? He said that God created all human beings for a specific purpose, and that purpose is to worship God, which is to know God, to love God, to obey God, and to follow his commandments, right? So that is the essence of his message. And he said, in return, what will you get? If you die and God will resurrect you and you bring you to accountable, and if you pass the test, you will go to paradise. For those who reject it, they will go to hellfire. That is essentially his message. So this message is also the key to salvation, meaning that every human being have opportunity to get right with God. Every human being, whether you're born in the family of Judaism, Christianity, doesn't matter which religion you're born, if you get this message, you apply this message in your life and you follow the messenger, then you have opportunity to enter paradise. So the second thing is message. The fourth thing is prophecies. So he's a prophet. That means that he has access to knowledge beyond human reach, which is the creator. So the fact that he's a messenger, he has knowledge beyond the human reach. If he inform us some things about the future or something about the past, and it come true, we can have a high confidence in him that yes, he must be speaking the truth, because no human being have access to this knowledge except if you have a communication between you and your creator. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the three you presented.
No, I'm not finished yet. I'm just elaborating more just to build up so you can see where I'm coming from.
I would say it's very subjective, especially when you say prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would easily deny those things. You know.
What do you mean subjective? How is it subjective?
Well, for example, if I read a verse in the Quran that some would interpret as a prophecy, and some would say that it's just metaphorical.
Not necessarily. So in that case, I think you're incorrect there, because when the prophet give us a message, he also give us a tool how to interpret the message, so people cannot just make out their own explanation as they want to. So that go in lines of when the message is preserved. So when God preserved the message, He preserved in the text, He preserved in the meaning, He preserved in the language that we said, and because it wouldn't make sense if you have a text and no one speak the language, so it will be pointless, right? So if you have a text now, but what about the meaning? The meaning have to be preserved so people can understand what is it that God revealed. So now you have a meaning. So what is the correct meaning? Because language have a multi-layer of meanings. So what is the correct interpretations? So that also Islam give us a tool to interpret the Quran in a proper way.
But I have a question though, before you continue. Do all Muslims from all schools of thought agree that which prophecies are, and that they have no disagreements at all?
Yes.
Whether something is a prophecy.
Mm-hmm. So for instance, like the building of tall building, and this is actually based on the belief system and the 5 pillars of Islam. So there was the Prophet also was sitting down, and there was a man who walked up to him and asked him a question. He said, "Oh, Prophet Muhammad," he said, "Oh, Muhammad, tell me about Iman." So he mentioned the 6 pillars of Iman: that believe in Allah, believe in the angels, believe in the messengers, believe in the books, believe in the day of judgment, and believe in the divine decree. Then he said, "Okay, tell me about Islam." Islam is that you testify that no one has a right to be worshipped except Allah, that Prophet Muhammad is the messenger, that you establish prayer 5 times a day, that you fast in the month of Ramadan, that you you pay your zakat, 2.5 interest, 2.5% on your earning, and then you perform Hajj once in your life if you're healthy and you have the means. So, and the man asked, when is the day of judgment coming? He said, the one that asks doesn't know better than the one that's been asked, meaning that you asking me, you don't know more than that I know. So the man said, okay, tell me about the signs. Then he gave a prophecy. He said, among the signs of the day of judgment is that when the barefooted Bedouin Arab will be competing in tall buildings. As we know now, the tallest building is in the Arabian Peninsula. So this is a prophecy, and there's many prophecies that we can go into. Scholars explain that this specific is specific. It tell about the people, it tell about the locations, it tell about what's going to take place. And what is unique about this prophecy is that the prophet is not prophesizing to encourage people to do it, because we know that in the Quran, Allah discourage and Allah admonish people for extravagance, for going excesses, spending money without a necessity. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay. So it's not something that the prophet is encouraging people to do. It's discouraging that this is something that you have money, you have all this money, you're doing competition of building all this tall building where we have Muslim suffering in different countries where people need money. We have people living in poverty. These are the things that we need to focus on. But he's telling the state of mindset a Muslim at that time. And the specific Muslim that he's referring to the Bedouin Arabs. And 60, 80 years ago, the Bedouin was still living in the desert. But now, if you look at it, they're on top of the world, in skyscrapers. So to finish up, prophecy is one of them. Another one would be miracles. So when a prophet comes, he would tell you, it would say, hey, I'm a prophet. Imagine a person come to you and say, hey, I'm a prophet. Okay. So he said, if you're a prophet, prove it. He would say, okay. So I'll give you an analogy. If you have a king, the king sent a messenger, and the king said, the messenger come to you, the messenger said, hey, I was sent by the king. The way to prove that I was sent by the king, you will see a king do something that he never did before. He will stand up 3 times and he will sit down. That will confirm that what I said, that I'm sent by the messenger, I'm sent by the king, is true. So you look and you see the king stand up 3 times and sit down. So that can give you a high confidence that yes, he must be from the king. The king must have sent him with this specific message. So one of the way also is miracles. Miracle pertaining to specific to his life. Miracle pertaining to specific to his prophethood. So one of the way that distinguish a prophet is that when the prophet comes, he claims to be a prophet and he has a miracle to prove his prophecies. So for instance, in the Quran, we look at the life of Prophet Isa, Jesus Christ. When he came to the people and the people didn't believe in him, he performed miracles to show that he was truly a prophet. And miracle is something that no other human being can do without the will of God. So a miracle is something that you cannot learn. It's not an art that you learn, that you said like a sorcery. You will go, you will learn, you can undo it. And anybody can do it. Miracle is not like that. Miracle is an impossibility that no human being can do. Once the prophet does it, any other human being will not be able to do it. So the Prophet Muhammad did many miracles in his life. I'm not sure if you're aware of it too. Miracle pertaining to his own when he was alive to convert those specific people. Miracle that's going to come afterward for people who never saw him. That's going to give him confidence to believe that he was true for prophet, which is the miracle of the Quran, the linguistic miracle that he brought to human beings to say to challenge mankind that if you think I'm lying, that I'm not sent by Allah, then produce something like the Quran. So just to recap, the first one is character. The second one is a message. The third one is prophecies, and the fourth one is miracles. So those are some of the reasons that give me high confidence that the Prophet Muhammad must be a truthful prophet that is worthy to be followed. If Hatim want to add anything else, then you can ask him, or if you have any question.
Yeah, thank you, Abu Muhammad. I wanted to add something about prophecies. So I've always understood like the criticism of non-Muslims when it comes to prophecies, because oftentimes there are prophecies that aren't given a time limit. So for example, one could say, so it's kind of like, I want to say like they're unfalsifiable prophecies because there is no time limit. You see what I mean? And like they're usually low risk, high reward. So like if the prophecy isn't fulfilled, then like a believer could say, well, yeah, like it hasn't been fulfilled yet, but you just have to wait. Like maybe it'll be fulfilled in 1,000 years. And if it has been fulfilled, then they want to jump on it and be like, okay, look, it's been fulfilled. Here's a prophecy. I actually wrote a paper on this, Elmo, that I want to share after this. But so I give a bunch of Quranic prophecies, just a bunch of prophecies in the Quran that are timed. They're prophecies with a timer. And it's usually prophecies that are incredibly specific, like this thing is going to happen, and it's incredibly specific. So like there's a timer. It's specific. It's a high risk because it's so specific, right? Like if the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he made a prophecy that's like incredibly specific and has a timer, that's a high risk. If the prophecy doesn't come to pass, I'm like by the timer, then like for sure he's not a prophet, you know, because he prophesied something that isn't true, right? And if he's really like a messenger of God and God knows everything, then it must be true. So it's incredibly high risk, and it'd be something that's low reward. If it does come true, and there's a bunch of these examples, then like even non-Muslims still, even when they see this evidence, they still won't believe, because it's not like I mean, like they'll just chalk it up to, well, he just got lucky, you know what I mean? So like there's like it's not in the manner of a liar, for example. Like in my estimation, like it doesn't seem like this was something that like they would do, you know, that like they would like make a prophecy that's incredibly high risk and has a little reward, because yet, I mean, even today, like these prophecies exist, and like you're probably still not going to become Muslim, you know, but like it was something that like it would have completely destroyed Islam if he was wrong. So it's incredibly high risk, low reward. And you'll see a bunch of these in the Quran itself. And I have a paper on it, and I even made like a bunch of references to like the Quran and like some commentary on the Quran, so you can contextualize the verses like themselves. I worked really hard on this, so I'll show it to you afterwards. But yeah, it's pretty good. But like I myself am very skeptical of prophecies, you know. So I understand that like it's not it wouldn't convince everyone, because a lot of them are unfalsifiable. So this is why I presented only a bunch of the falsifiable ones that are on a timer, and you can see for yourself and decide whether or not it's legitimate evidence.
Just to add what Hatem said. So as I mentioned, 4 things. There's one thing also is the impact that the Prophet brought to the society that he lived in. If you look at the society he lived in, people were known to be drunkards, you know, people who drink, people who bury their daughters alive. Riba was rampant, slavery was rampant. The impact that he brought, because of his message that he brought, changed the society as a whole in a period of 23 years, can give us a sign that this person must be supported by the Creator. Because it wouldn't make sense that a person who lie in the name of the Creator, and years after years after years after years, and we're seeing that he's becoming victorious. So it's like someone just lying in the name of the Creator, but yet we're still seeing that God is supporting him. That wouldn't make any sense. So another option another thing that I mentioned basically is that to look at the impact that he brought in regard to the people belief system, in regard to the people moral character, in regard to the legislation that he brought, in regard to the conduct that he brought in that society. A person cannot achieve none of those things except is supported by a Creator. Now we can see in history where a lot of great people achieve, you know, a lot of success in different areas, science, medicines, but to have a whole bunch of office fulfilled into a person, as a statesman, as a wife, as a general, as a military, as a judge, as a ruler, as a prophet, all of these being fulfilled to the max is practically impossible for a human being to fulfill that without assistance from a Creator. So that's one thing that I do wanted to add as well.
Okay.
Look like we're coming up to an hour there. 30 minutes, reach out to an hour. Go ahead.
But if you are you guys willing to continue, or
maybe about 15 minutes, because it's gonna be prayer time soon here.
Okay. So one last question, because I do have a lot of contentions there, like for example, a good character, and prophecy, and the message, and the spiritual impact it has to the society. But other than that,
miracle as well.
Yeah. And so my last question would be to you would be is that because you're a Muslim right now and you believe in the Quran,
In the
in the
Quran.
Quran, the Prophet, yeah, the Prophet Muhammad, and Allah
Mm-hmm.
being the only and one true Creator who deserves to be worshipped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would you tell to someone who's listening right now, and what advice would you give to them to make let them have an open mind and consider Islam to be
A
and
possibility.
understand its message. It's
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's a
I
possibility.
think that's a great question, man. I thank you very much for that one. So the primary advice that I can give to anybody who's looking to search the truth or to learn is turn back to God and ask for guidance. Because human beings, sometimes we think we are self-sufficient, we can do everything. So the primary advice is to turn to God to ask, guidance, sincere guidance, that when you see the truth, you will follow it to the teeth. That's the primary reason. That's the primary advice. The second thing is do your research. Yes, because we live in a time of information where there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation as well. So you have to decipher which one is the correct, which one is not correct, and preferably, I will say, to have a Muslim friend, because if you come across a website that's saying one thing and Islam is saying another thing, then you can get clarification with Muslim perspective. Okay, XYZ contentions is here. So what is the Islamic view in regard to this specific? Then you can get a clear understanding where Islam stands at that specific positions. And the third thing is to look at the basic belief system of Islam. Does it make sense to me? Is in line with my natural dispositions, regarding to like the belief of the Creator that I mentioned. The three category of the Tawheed that we say oneness about God, which is that they believe in the Creator, that Allah is the Creator, the sustaining, the maintaining, the one who gives life, the one who causes death, the one who control everything, the one who's the governor. That's the primary. The second thing, only He deserves to be worshipped. That this is the key to salvation that every single human being has been blessed with. Whether you're Jews or Christian, it doesn't matter who you are. If you fulfill that purpose and follow the way of the messenger, then you will have salvations. So it's not something specific, or you have to believe someone died for your sin, or you have to be born in a specific tribe. It's universal message. It's universal salvation for all human beings. Then the third thing you have to look at, the belief system, as far from how do they describe God? What are the concepts of God? Is it contradictory? Is it incoherent? Is it fallacious? Does it lead to, paradox? So you have to examine that one as well. So another one is you have to look at the scriptures. When you examine the scripture, you have to ask yourself, okay, so let's suppose that the God did reveal the scripture, but as a preserved though, when was it revealed? As a preserved? As a preserved in the language that it was revealing. For instance, let's take the Bible. So if you suppose that Jesus, the New Testament that's attributed to Jesus, is it in the language of Jesus? Do we have manuscript, or do we have an oral transmission to show that, yes, it's preserved? So let's say that it is preserved in text. Is the meaning preserved? Can we know the meaning for sure? And you need the language to back that up. So it's preserved now. What about, is there a tool that the prophet gives to people to explain so people don't get the wrong understanding? People don't have to come up with their own, theory saying that, oh, it's metaphor, or it's literal, or it's not, it's this and that. So there's a tool to, explain the text, what is the correct way to understand the text. So you do investigation, you look at the scripture, you say, okay, it's preserved. The another criteria that you can use is this text, if it's from the Creator, then it should be free from any error. It should be free from any contradictions, right? Because if God is perfect, He knows the past, future, present, everything, then He shouldn't make any mistake. So contradiction could be internal contradiction, it could be external contradiction. Internal contradiction means like the text contradicts itself. It's saying one end, God is one, and it's saying another one, there's no God. So which one is it? Does God exist or God does not exist? So it cannot have an internal contradiction, right? It can have an external contradiction, meaning that it cannot contradict something that we know to be true. For instance, you cannot claim that the sun doesn't exist. If a book claims to be from God and he said the sun doesn't exist, that we know for sure that yes, the sun does exist, then we can say, no, this can't be true because this book have an error. So that's another criteria that you can utilize to examine scriptures. Another criteria that you can utilize is if it's from the creator and God knows everything about us and you know what is betterment, what's going to make our life better, he should give us guidance in all aspects of our life, whether it be a social, whether it be a political, whether it be spiritual, whether it be intellectual, any aspect of human life, it should give us some guidance that we should look at and we can benefit and he can make our life better. And history showing that through the life of the Prophet Muhammad and the teaching that he brought, that he impacted society and he brought the betterment to that society. That's one and another criteria that you can look at. And the last criteria that you can look at, if it's from the creator, then no human being should or no creation should be able to produce something like it. It should be miraculous. There should be a sign about it that shows us that, yes, this book cannot be byproduct of human beings, or it cannot be byproduct of any creations. You have to be byproduct, the divine will of the creator or the speech of the creator. So those are some of the things that you can take into consideration, build up your own criteria. Then you examine each scripture or each claim based on those criteria. Then you can do process elimination. Okay, the book have a good concept about the creator. Okay, but what about it contradictions? So those contradictions, we cannot attribute those to God because God is perfect. God doesn't make no mistake. God doesn't make any error. So that part I can check. I can put an S mark on there. Okay, that part, no, it doesn't pass that. Then you can go to the next one. So those are the advice that I can tell to a person. Set up your own. First, ask God for guidance, sincere guidance, and be sincere when you asking it. It's not just joking. Sincere to guide you, to show you the truth. And when you see it, you will believe it and you will follow it to the best of your ability. And you do your research, examine things and build up a criteria that you can use to check every religion's based on their own claims and the type of evidence they produce for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, Brother Ali and Ali, thank you so much for your time here. And it's if you wanna add promote something, you can do it now.
Okay. So I am a co-founder of an Islamic institute called Al Basira Project for Islamic Research, which is basically a platform established to help Muslims propagate Islam, to clarify misconceptions about Islam. And we have a YouTube channel that you can follow. We have a Facebook as well that you can follow. And we have a website where we set up course for Muslims to take and non-Muslims as well invited. And you as well, Elmo, I appreciate you to invite me on this show to squeeze my brain a little bit here. And I do want to ask you though, at the beginning, you mentioned that you're atheist. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm Christian.
You're Christians? Okay, awesome. I wanted to ask you as well, what is your belief regarding to Jesus? Do you believe that Jesus was someone sent by God, or do you believe that Jesus is God or Son of God?
Well, I believe in the incarnation of the Son of God.
What do you mean, like incarnations? Like God became man?
Yeah, that he is the Son of God.
What in what sense? So, like from my reading of the biblical text, is when someone said someone is son of God, like for instance, they mentioned David is son of God or Adam is son of God, and Judy.
Yeah, so it's God in three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
So God is a triune God. Is this biblical? Is this based on a Bible, or is this based on more philosophical and belief system?
It's biblical.
Biblical. Interesting, because I never heard that. When I look at the text, based on what Jesus said, for instance, John 17:3, Jesus mentioned that the only true God is the Father. So that would exclude Jesus as being God, because Jesus, by his own admission, that he says the only true God is the Father, and Jesus was sent by him. And as a Muslim, this in line with what we believe about Jesus Christ, that Jesus was a messenger sent by the Creator. And the Bible also confirmed that, as I just tell you, John 17, verse 3, you can check it out. So, it's interesting to know that you do believe in Jesus Christ. And I think, I would invite you to read more about Jesus Christ in the Islamic worldview to see, what we say about it, if you line with what you believe or not.
Yeah, I've read it. I read the Quran about
You
it.
read the Quran about it.
Chapter 36.
Do you have any
The same-
questions regarding to that?
Well, one thing's for sure is I have no reason to believe Muhammad knew anything about it other than that God says so. That God told him what he should say.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. If he's from the Creator and the Creator not everything, the Creator would tell him what to say. So if he's from, if he establishes from Creator, then anything that goes what the Creator said.
In a way, if you would have to convince me of who Muhammad is, and that of who he claims he is, and then I would trust him.
Yeah. See, hold up. I'm just real quick. Just because we're closing off anyway, I just want to say one last thing. In Islam, it is up to God to convince you.
To God.
All we do is give the message, whether or not you believe it. I mean, we could try our best. If you don't, then we go our separate ways. But anyway, I just want to say thank you, Elmo, for having me on the podcast.
Before we go, I just want to give you one last thing. If you don't know anything about Islam, just know that the primary message of Islam is that to worship the Creator alone, not to associate anything with him in worships, meaning don't worship the creation, don't worship any of the creation, whether it be prophets, messengers, angels, statues, any of those things, basically don't worship. So that's the primary message, and that is the goal. That's the key to salvation. And I do appreciate for your engagement, for your question. It's really a pleasure, talking to you, man.
So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
Staples helps small businesses print big. The print advisors at Staples sweat the details and quality of every project. That's what they call their Print Big promise. They're committed to getting your print job right every time, to treating your small business like a big deal and making it come to life, and to giving you expert guidance from start to finish. And now get 20% off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more at Staples. Offer ends January 1st.
Hi, it's John Taffer from Bar Rescue. Did you know the second building in America was a tavern? When I built my new restaurant franchise concept, Taffer's Tavern, I thought back to the roots of what makes a tavern, timeless character, all while delivering an unbelievably delicious food and beverage experience. That, paired with my 40-plus years in the industry, provides a clear roadmap to success. Do you have what it takes to be a Taffer's Tavern franchisee? If so, I'd love to hear from you. Visit franchise.tafferstavern.com.